Okay, good evening, everybody. Good evening, and welcome to the call for tonight. And I'm going to apologize up front. We're not going to nearly get through all of WP Coursify. So I've got a couple of questions that I'm going to be dealing with. What I'm going to do right now is I'm going to go ahead and put the link in the Facebook group. And then if you have any questions, feel free to go ahead and just write them there in the box. I'm just going to let everybody know that we are live, and then we will get started right away. But if you have any questions, feel free to go ahead and write them in the box. And then we will we'll go ahead and just kind of get into this. I am going to definitely get to WP Coursify, but I do have a few questions that I'm going to be answering. So we will then we'll then kind of go from here. Right, so I think I have the links in all of the appropriate places. And that being said, we're going to go ahead and get started. I'm going to switch over to my presentation. Right, so if you have any questions, please feel free to just write them in the live chat box there in YouTube. I will be able to see them, and I just need to make sure the volume is turned off. Okay, and hey, Victor, and Paul and Dana, good afternoon. All right, so okay, great. So I'm gonna hello guys. I'm gonna get through the questions as fast as I can. And then so let's just go ahead and dive through it. Of course, since you're here live, if you have any questions, go ahead and write them there in the box. Okay, so what we're going to cover tonight is questions from the community. I'm gonna touch briefly on PLR jackpot. I need to kind of talk about that a little bit, and then WP Coursify. All right, so if you have any questions about PLR or anything while you're here, just write them there in the box. If I can't get to them tonight, I will get to them, and I definitely will put them either in the future show, or I'll even answer them by email throughout the week. Typically, what happens is that if somebody has a question, somebody else has this very same question. So there really are no bad questions. Whether it's about tonight, we talked about we're going to get to WP Coursify, but even if it's not that, if it's something else about PLR, we probably will. You'll probably find that whatever your question is, somebody else has it, right? So don't feel shy about asking your question. Excuse me. Okay, now I got a couple of questions about this WP PLR jackpot. I want to talk briefly about what I think you should be doing with it. You probably are getting bombarded with marketers about that information, so I'm going to talk about that. Let's see, Helen. Helen's got a question. When using PLR videos, should we record the audio or record an intro and use the PLR video as is? That's a great question. I will do that tonight, Helen. Let me. I'm gonna get through this, and then as soon as I get to the third question, I'll jump on that one too. Okay. So what should you be doing with PLR jackpot? My philosophy on any PLR, anything that you have PLR rights to, that means you can basically do whatever you want to do with it, and that's going to be the case with this content. It's raw material. And if you have taken accounting before, any time in your life, raw material is an accounting term, and that raw material isn't the end product. In order to get the most value, you have to look at any PLR that you have, anything that you get the rights to, as something that's going to be something that you can turn into an end product. So all of this stuff is not for you to just take as is and put up on the web. I don't believe that. I don't believe that about any PLR. So even if that's what you intend to do, you can do that. That is not how you get the most value of it. And so if you want to get the most value of it, you really do have to see it as something that's going to be part of the whole and not as the whole, if that makes sense. right? So, and Thomas has got a question. Do customers feel the value of content is higher when it coursified versus just a download? I want to touch on that. I will get to that, Thomas, when I do talk about WP Coursify. That's actually a great question. Okay, so in accounting, how many of you all have had accounting before? Right? How many of you all in some time, at some period of your life, you took an accounting course? If you did, put a 2 in the question box. If you know what I mean when I say raw material, right? Maybe you took an accounting course in college or high school or whatever the case is. But accounting, when you have raw materials have to go through a couple of things. Number one, raw material has to go through something called work in process, right? You guys remember that? Work in process. So, and this is cost accounting I'm talking about. So, you start with raw materials, and then it's got to go through work in process. And so work in process is where you add some other stuff to it and where you put some labor on it. And that labor can be your labor. It can be other people's labor. It can be automation. It can be software. It can be bonuses. It can be whatever you want to add to it. But if you go and you buy the raw material, it was never intended for you to sell it all by itself, right? When you are a reseller, and if you buy it as is, again, that's the lowest possible use. You can use it if you can find a market, you've already got traffic. I say put it up, right? You should have all of your PLR offers put up on your hostings. If you have anything that's got a sales page, you should have all of those offers posted. And I've talked about one of the reasons why I think you ought to be doing that. Raw materials also go through finished goods. So in other words, you have to finish it. What you have when you get a course, when you get PLR, you have to put something on it. I call it weaponizing. In other words, you have to kind of figure out where it goes to really actually solve a real problem. So anytime you get something, let's say, and the example I always use is on Facebook. You can buy a Facebook PLR course, but what real problem does it solve? Where you add value is you solve the real problem and you use the PLR in order to explain the basics. Does that make sense? Right? This is nothing new if you've been to any of my webinars or any of the training I've done. That's just the way you use PLR, right? Work is involved in both of those. So in other words, whatever you get from there, you're going to have to put some work into it in order to get the most value from it. That's any PLR that you get. So let's say that you go and you get this huge, humongous PLR jackpot package. Here's how you're going to get the most value from it. Number one, you visualize. And when I say visualize, I don't mean that you're trying to bring something into existence. What you're really trying to do when you visualize, you have to see an offer, right? That's what I mean by visualize. See an offer. A real offer. So in other words, it doesn't have to be the end offer. It doesn't have to be one of the packages. You have to see an offer when you get it. So in other words, okay, there's a membership course there. Am I gonna sell that as a membership course? No, I'm going to visualize a membership offer. I'm going to see what else I'm going to add to it. I'm going to put something else with it. I might need to put some bumpers on all of the videos so that I can make them consistent. So I can put 2 or 3 different brands of videos inside of a package so I can create an offer. So the first thing, visualize and strategize an offer. Second thing, when you get the offer, you're going to do 1 or 2 things with it. Number one, it has to generate leads for you, or number 2, it has to be it has to make money for you. One or the other. So it's going to be something you sell. It's going to be something you use to generate leads. Either one is fine, right? So if you use it to generate leads, it should be of product quality. So in other words, you still have to create an offer, right? You create an offer that's worthy of being paid for, and when you do that, even if you go to the market and you say opt in order to get this, then what you're saying then is that this is worthy of somebody paying for. All I want is your email address. So if you get that, please put the number 3 in the question box. If you understand that whole concept, visualize and strategize. Excuse me. Okay. Sorry for clearing my throat. Okay. Then what you're going to need to do is categorize. In other words, based on whatever strategy you're going to be doing, you're going to categorize it. So in other words, you got this huge bundle of stuff, right? And the number one thing that happens to people when they get any PLR is that they get overwhelmed, right? So there's information overload. What I want to help you with briefly, and I hope to get done with this fast because I've got a lot I got to get through tonight. Is you have to categorize. So in other words, you have to decide generally what all this stuff goes into. You have to decide what the basic buckets are in the way you run your online business. I'm gonna show you why that's important here in a minute. What you're gonna do next then is you're gonna departmentalize. In other words, before you go and download it, in fact, I'm gonna suggest that you don't do any of the downloading at all. I suggest you go and get somebody in your house. Maybe you've got a teenager. Maybe you've got a college student who's spending her money and not doing anything. Maybe you've got someone who just needs $5 or $10. Whoever it is, do not do this yourself. You get someone else to download this stuff for you. Now you might say, now that's a lot of trouble to go through to get somebody to download for a product I bought. But when I tell you why I think you should do this, let me show you why. Let me show you what I'm talking about here. And I'm going to come into just a folder that I recently created. First of all, I'm going to suggest, and I'm not going to suggest you do anything any different than I do. I'm going to suggest that you have an entire hard drive dedicated to this stuff. Right. So don't put any of this stuff on your hard drive. Get an external drive for this. And if you have to get the smallest one, 500 gigabyte, just get one of those. I think they're $20 or $30. Do not put this stuff on your hard drive. You should be filling up external drives. Get reliable external drives, back them up into your cloud drive, but don't put any of this stuff on your hard drive. Push it off on an external drive. Then you decide on categories. So in other words, you don't download into the product PLR jackpot, right? That's not going to help you in the future, right? That's not going to help you when you got to go looking for stuff. The way you categorize stuff is, first of all, I might have a category that might be for social media. Right, so I'm going to create a folder for social media. Well, what else can I have in social media? I'm going to create a folder for Facebook stuff. Right, then I'm going to create a folder for Facebook ads. I might create another folder for Facebook traffic. I might create another folder for Facebook groups. I might create another one for Facebook, let's say Facebook pixels. That's probably traffic. Okay, so then even within Facebook ads, I might create something else here on pixels. Like that's something. So now here's why I'm saying you don't need to do this, right? Get somebody else to do this, because somebody else needs to be basically taking the categories that you do, and then they need to break down what you're getting into these individual folders and putting them here. Now, here's what that does for you. Right now, I've talked about tagging stuff before, and I've kind of gotten a little feedback that it may be a little difficult in order to tag everything, and I understand that. But here's what's not difficult. You're going to get somebody else to download each little individual thing and to put it in the right place, right? So in other words, if it goes into Facebook ads, put it there. If it goes into the ads, put it there. If it goes into the pixels, put it there. Now, what happens is when you start searching your external drive for all of the stuff related to Facebook, then either Windows or Mac will do this search for you. And that's really what you want. You just want to be able to, at a glance, see everything on your hard drive that you have on your external drive for Facebook. Because why? Because what we're looking for is what? Raw material, so that we can turn it into the product that we need. Does that make sense? Is everybody with me? So if you get that, put the number 4 in the live chat box if you understand that now. Right? So this is what I suggest that you do. And the reason I suggest that you don't do this is because it's a lot of work. There's over 130 pieces of PLR in this. And so this will keep you from getting overwhelmed. In fact, what I would suggest is once it's downloaded, don't even think about it anymore. Get somebody else to do this. Give the external drive to your nephew, to your kid, to whoever. Tell them to download the stuff onto the drive, and then you're done with it. Don't even think about what's on this drive until you get ready to do a project. Does that make sense? Right. So again, it's done. You have the content, but now let's talk about further, right? Synthesize. In other words, don't look at everything. Don't even start looking at everything, right? Right now, the point we should be at is somebody should be categorizing this stuff so you can find it when you need it, right? And if somebody else, great. Yep. Somebody saying they're doing that right now. It took some time to get everything in order, right? But it's worth it, right? It's worth it to do this. If you're quite honestly, and I don't like using absolutes, but if you're not doing this, then what's going to happen is you're going to have a lot of stuff that will either overwhelm you if you start looking at it, or will just almost kind of make you mad because you feel like, well, I bought this, I'm not using it. Well, the reason you can't use it is because you can't find it when you need it, when you have an idea, right? Okay, now, and the reason I can tell you this is because I did it the wrong way for years, right? Okay, now, then personalize it. So in other words, you go get what you need, right? When you have an idea, you go get what you need. You do a search, you do a search for what you want, right? And then instead of looking at PLR jackpot, what am I looking at? I have an idea about what? Facebook. So now I'm just going to start going into all these little individual folders so that I can find the stuff that I need. Right? So if you do a good job of creating categories, you will then be able then to find stuff when you need it, when you have an idea. Okay. I suggest whenever you get something like this, you pick one thing and you do something to generate leads, right? You probably, everybody on this call should have an idea on something they could do to generate leads. Right. And what I mean by that is everybody on this call knows a question that somebody's asking in their niche, right? If you know a question that somebody's asking your niche, what you do is you go get the PLR and put something together, as opposed to getting the offer and putting it in front of people, right? The offer means nothing, right? The offer is not important as you're finding out what the need is in the marketplace. And then you're putting the stuff together. You then go to the market with something that they want, right? Okay, now, so I had to address that. I mean, this is not what I really necessarily want to cover, but I saw some feedback about it about just about the abundance of things, and you shouldn't be afraid of a big package. Some it overwhelms people and all that stuff. Well, yeah, it does overwhelm people if they don't do it right. And so what I suggest you do is you don't have to run from a big package because you get a lot of stuff in it. You just have to basically, you're going to pay $10 or $15 to go get somebody to download this stuff and categorize it for you, right? You don't need to think about it. And I promise you, if you spend $10 or $15, it'll be the best $10 or $15 you've spent. All right, now, then monetize. Okay, so that's pretty much all on PLR Jackpot. That offer, we've got it. We've got a bonus for it, and everything I put together, right, is for you, is to help you to categorize stuff, right? That's really why I picked categorization. So again, if you haven't picked it up, you can. If you don't want it, I mean, don't worry about it. But again, don't run from a big package because it's big, right? That's my point. Okay, now moving on. Okay, so first question. During last week's Q&A, and this might have been 2 weeks ago, you answered a question for a woman who asked if PLR had to be written before it is sold. And this is a question I know a lot of people have. And you said, Yes, it must be rewritten. And now, I thought the point of PLR was that we are buying products that are ready to go. Am I wrong about this? Now, how many of you all have had the very same question? Most of you, I'm guessing, right? So if you've had that question before, I want you to put a 5 in the question box, right? Most of us have had that question. I know I have, and so I've answered part of it here tonight, and so part of it is depending on the rights that you have. You and I should always be visualizing an offer, right? So in other words, even if all you're going to do is to take what they have and add bonuses to it, you should be thinking about the offer, and the place that you have to be is you have to be thinking about what's the specific question in the marketplace that needs to be answered. So in other words, I might download a PLR package on email marketing, which is cool. And some people do need to learn about email marketing. That's also cool. But I'm going to go to the market trying to answer a specific question. Maybe I might answer the question about deliverability. Maybe I might answer the question about deliverability to Gmail. And I'm going to use the email marketing PLR in order to cover the basics, so I don't have to cover that. All I'm going to do is cover the deliverability. Now, I've already been through how you personalize the video when you got them in another place, but really, all PLR should do for you is it should bring you up so you do not have to explain the basics. You do not have to be an expert and explain the basics. You can definitely put it up for sale. Now, if you're talking about written PLR, any kind of written PLR, I don't care who wrote it, even if I wrote it. And typically, I don't do a lot of written PLR because I don't want to give you anything for you to have to proofread. But if you get it written PLR, I don't care if it is from Ernest Hemingway, you need to proofread it and rewrite it. I don't care who it's from. I trust, who is it? I think Tiffany Lambert does all of her own PLR. I trust her implicitly. I know her information is solid. I know she double and triple checks it. I would still rewrite it. And the reason I would still rewrite it, even if it was Tiffany, is because I need to be able to personalize it and speak to my own niche, whatever that is. And so you should always be thinking about who your clients are, who your customers are, and what your niche is. And listen, if somebody gives you a package, they're not going to address it in terms that would, and now I don't use PLR in this sense, so I would never sell PLR. But if somebody gave me PLR, I would have to contextualize it for people who want to know how to use PLR. So in other words, if somebody gave me PLR on Facebook, I would then need to contextualize that for people who want to learn how to use PLR. Does that make sense? So if you get what I just said, put the number 6 in the question box. And Helen says, right. Helen says you got to rewrite in your own voice too, right? Because the way you talk and the stuff you say is unique. And that's really what brings people back to you, is the stuff that you say uniquely like you, right? So I would say that the way to look at this is that you can, now if you already have an existing traffic source, right? You already have an existing traffic source, you ought to host your offers. And when you host your offers, what you do, and one of the ways to use, let's say that you just bought something, it had a sales page on it. Now, here's how I would say, if you want to use that immediately, one of the things that you should be doing is you host those offers, and then anytime you have something written and you're going to do a giveaway, you should be hyperlinking not to affiliate offers. And this drives me bonkers, right? When people hyperlink to affiliate offers and they have PLR, you should be hosting your own offers, and you should be sending people to your server, right? That's one good thing that you could really do with a PLR offer right off the bat, right? So yeah, I definitely do believe that you should be rewriting, but if you just want to use it out of the box, anytime you have a download page, anytime you have a thank you page, your links to your offers ought to be there. Don't immediately send people to an affiliate offer. Send people to your own domain with your own offers. Does that make sense? All right, so that would be one way to use it out of the box, but I would definitely always be looking at PLR as raw material. Okay. Okay, this is actually another good question. It is, and it's one I got this week. How do you verify that software you didn't purchase yourself is safe to use and to recommend to others? This is actually very good. And so usually I don't bother with it since I'm a programmer and I can handle most of my own needs, but some of the stuff you give out looks like it'd be useful to our target market, so maybe I shouldn't completely avoid it. And yeah, I don't think you should avoid it. But it's a different level of risk assessment and mitigation, plus potential customer support issues to account for dealing with publishing materials. So I'm having trouble seeing the cost benefit ratio and working with it rather than just staying focused with content publishing. Great question. So here and actually the last part of this is probably the key. It's cost benefit. So in other words, when you, first of all, I don't think you should ever add software to an offer indiscriminately. So in other words, the offer is on email marketing, and you're gonna put a Facebook software plugin in there. And I don't think you do that, but I'm just saying I've seen that before, and that's something that you don't want to do. So in other words, what you're trying to do is you're trying to increase the value of the offer. And then here's another thing that I've seen that you don't want to do if you can avoid it, is just because, let's say the offer is about Facebook, and then you got a WordPress plugin that says Facebook on the cover. You don't just automatically add that to it if it doesn't add value to what the offer does. It doesn't matter what the software says on the box or on the tin. It needs to enhance the process of the offer. You should be able to say on your sales page or in your sales video that I'm giving you this as a bonus because it does something to enhance the process. So in other words, you should be able to say that there's a reason I'm giving you this, and it's going to help you to enjoy when I'm offering you more. And so when you do that, then you should be able to, number one, get more sales. Number two, you should be able to raise the price some. And if you feel as if the price increase and or the additional income is not going to be great enough to justify it, then you can actually try it without outputting software in there. Now the other part to this is that I do try, and there have been times when it hasn't always worked. First of all, just as a rule, I don't promote a lot of software, and the main reason isn't even because it isn't awesome. It's mainly because, excuse me, just what you're saying. I don't know if that's a cost benefit to me and to you. Right now, one of the software packages in here is the one I'm talking about tonight, which is WP Coursify. I believe in that one, right? So even though I didn't create it, it's one of the few software products that I promote because, and it's old. It's not even new. It's not being launched recently. But if you buy PLR, right, I can see the use for it. And so you need to be able to say about software that it makes your life or business better in some way. You should be able to make the case, and you shouldn't have to be a stretch. And so if you make the case, it ought to put more money in your pocket. And if it doesn't put more money in your pocket, then it's not going to be worth the added problem, the added struggle. And so I'm doing this kind of calculus in my brain when I add software to anything, or if I promote software. I'm trying to do this calculus in my brain. And no, I'm not, it's not a conscious thing, but I have to be able to see that there's a cost benefit. And I think that's the analogous. So So you got to be able to see the cost benefit of it. And honestly, everybody's different, right? So you know, the person who wrote this is a programmer. so they might say, you know what, I'm not feeling that, which is fine, right? I'm not a programmer. I'm not a programmer, so I look at it differently. That's another part of it too, that, you know, everybody's in the market in a different position, and everybody looks at that stuff differently. And for this programmer, they might see things in software I'd never see, right? I even if I might never see it, and so for them, they couldn't see the cost benefit. So I think that the answer to this question is that you personally have to see the cost benefit before you add it and or promote it, right? And so that's my answer about that. Okay, third question: are there videos available that will show me how to upload courses to WP Coursify, and will that help me with the rest of the setup? The manual that came with the plugin was not clear enough for me. I looked at the manual today, right? And I, you know, I think I've just not really processed this, right? Because I don't, unfortunately, neither Sydney nor I read manuals. That's not a good thing. But this manual is this annual is a lot, right? So I'm totally getting where this person is coming from. I think this was Paul. I totally, and I don't know if he's here tonight. I know he's probably going to be watching the replay. I totally get you, Paul. 56-page manual, and you know, and I really looked through it. I just said, wow, okay, you know, it's a lot. So, it's already 9:33, and I've done so much tonight. I'm going to do a little bit of this tonight, and we're going to have to stretch this into a session too. So let's do what we can tonight here. And I'm going to see if I can just kind of get into. All right, so so you have this, you have a WordPress installation. And so the first thing you're going to do, obviously, is you're going to add in the plugin. And I actually think that the person who sent the question, he's probably passed this already. And so this is going to be kind of basic for him. So there's this there's the plugin, and he may even have this installed already, but this is going to be instructive for you. So what could happen is is that a plugin? I'm going to go to Coursify Pro. I'm going to install this. And then sometimes you might get this error message, right? So how many of you all gotten that error message when you've uploaded things to WordPress before? Upload max file size directive in PHP INI, right? That generally that's not a problem with the plugin. That's not a problem with you. It's a problem with your host. And so your host has just kind of put a limit on the size of the file that you can upload into your WordPress, right? So you're going to need to install a plugin, and I'd see there's a plugin called PHP Settings, and I think that you can get it. I think you can get it if you go to your PHP. Yeah, and so you see that's already active on my drive here. And then once you do that, then you can go to PHP Settings. We're going to go to this settings, and we're going to find the max file size. Let's see. Where is that? Maximum file input. Where's that thing? Not the memory limit. Okay, here we go. Not the memory limit. Okay, here you go. Upload max file size. So I'm going to copy this to the editor. I'm going to go over to the editor. Let's see. Let's see. How do I do this? Let's see. Let's refresh the table. I think that's what you're supposed to do. You copy that to the editor. Okay, it's going to take a minute to refresh here. So, okay, so while that's refreshing, I'm gonna ask the I'm gonna answer the question about. I'm gonna answer a couple of questions here while that's refreshing. Let me scroll back. I got a question here from Helen, and Helen was asking, when using PLR videos, should we re-record the audio or re-record an intro and use the PLR video as is, which is actually a good question. I think, Helen, that at minimum, I think that if you don't want to re-record the whole video, and you don't have to, is you should record an introduction and do your own slide for that, and then give it context in your own voice. So in other words, it's going to be the least amount of work if you just create a basic 1-minute video telling me what I'm about to see, what I'm about to hear, and why it makes sense to think of it in your way. So I would create an introduction video and an ending video, and then I would make sure that what I did was I would contextualize it so that it made sense to the person based on, what your niche is, right? So that's sort of the way I would look at that. So I would record an entire two little videos, one for the beginning and one for the end. What I'm about to see and what I just saw, right? And personally, I think you should do that for every video. It's not really as much work as you might think it is. And it's gonna be better experience for the customer if you give it context, right? Does that make sense, Helen? All right, I'm gonna go back now to one more question here. Thomas, and Thomas's question is, do customers feel the value of content is higher when in Coursify versus just a download? I think that's the purpose of it, Thomas. Is what you're trying to do is you're trying to elevate the value. And so what you're doing is you're saying that this is really part of it almost looks like it's obviously meant to look like somewhat like Udemy. That's what it was obviously meant to look like. And so you're trying to elevate the value by putting it in a marketplace. And you're doing that in a way that you are branding the entire set of videos. So in other words, you can brand any videos you put in there by building separate sites. So if you build a site for a Facebook, you can go get all the Facebook courses on that you want in there. And then what you're doing is you're building a Facebook marketplace or Facebook education, Facebook university, whatever you want to call it, right? But I think that's the entire point of using WP Coursify, is that you're really trying to elevate the value by creating little marketplaces. So in other words, what I would not do is to put everything in one installation. I would segment, right? And I'm going to have a real good example of this in about, I'd say about 14 days, because I'm actually using it myself. You ought to segment according to where you're going to sell. And then once you segment, right? And again, I think you benefit by putting them on separate domains, to be quite honest, or separate installations, right? Even though they give you the ability to categorize, I think you should have all one thing in one place, right? Or in one place, all one thing, right? Does that make sense, Thomas? Yeah. Okay, so let's see. Let's see if this thing is refreshed for us here. Still hasn't. Let me see what's going on with this. Let's come back to this setting. That says I've got 0 selected. Okay, maybe that's what it is. Okay, this it's, oh boy, it's crazy. Now it's not exactly working for me here. Okay. It's 9:42, and I think I apologize to you up front that I was not going to get through everything tonight, and I'm not even close tonight. And I'm really sorry. I know I promised to do WP Coursify tonight. If you're here and you were here for that, I ended up covering the questions, and this is not working for me. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stretch this into part 2. I will do this before next Saturday. I've got a Weber coming up on Tuesday, so I will get this in before next week. So again, I'm really sorry about this, about not getting to this tonight. And I promise I will do it. And I think I'm kind of overdue in terms of doing this. So we will get a Coursify done, and we will have it ready for next time. Okay, so everybody, thank you very much. I appreciate your patience. Appreciate you all being here. I hope that this has been helpful for you here tonight, and that you got some benefit out of this. And with that, thank you very much, everybody. Have a great night and a pleasant tomorrow. Take care.